If you want to understand how Qatar, a tiny desert nation with no football history, no stadiums, and deadly summer heat, won the biggest prize in football, you have to forget what they built and start looking at who they bought. The story isn't about cooling technology, desert logistics, not even the legacy of the tournament. It is about 22 men in a room and what it took to flip their votes. Millions of dollars, secret meetings, gas deals, a handshake in the Ellis Palace in France, and there was also a whistleblower who was almost erased from the map.
The winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
That moment didn't just change the host of a tournament, it changed football forever. 22 men voted in that room, and more than half of them would later be indicted, banned, and disgraced. But on that day in Zurich, they were the kingmakers. And this is the vote that bought the world. So, the 2022 World Cup wasn't decided on the pitch. It was decided in Zurich behind closed door and by 22 men. These men, made up by FIFA's executive committee members and famously known as FIFA Exco, football's most powerful body at that time, president of federations, confederation heads, and whatnot, and each one of them held one single vote. And on December 2nd, 2010, they were supposed to vote for one tournament. Supposed to, but they voted for two. First, they voted for the 2018 World Cup host, and second, they voted for the 2022 World Cup host. So this wasn't standard practice at all. FIFA had never awarded two World Cups at the same time. So, who decided to change it? It was the head of the snake, Mr. Sepp Blatter, FIFA president and the most powerful man in the entire sports world. He called it a strategic move. He said that it would be efficient and it would give the host more time to prepare. But in reality, it did something else entirely. It created a window, a loophole, a chance for the votes to be traded. You support my bid for 2018, and I'll support yours for 2022. And sitting at that table were 22 men. You'll notice that I kept saying 22 men, but in reality, FIFA's executive committee is supposed to be a group of 24 members. Two of them in November 2010 were already banned by FIFA because of corruption. So, in this episode, we will meet the main characters of this epic saga. Let's start with the head of the stake, Sepp Blatter. He was the FIFA president. He did not vote unless there was a tie, but he built the system and he let the bidding play out in the shadows. Then we have Michel Platini, the president of UEFA, a legend of the game, a legend of the French football, Europe's most influential voice. He entered the vote leaning toward the US bid, but flipped, and many believe the flip happened over lunch with the French president and the Qatari royal. Then we have Mohammed Bin Hammam, the president of the Asian Football Confederation and FIFA vice president, a quiet operator from Qatar, not officially on the Qatar's bid team, but later revealed as the man who moved money across continents to secure votes. Then we have Jack Warner, president of CONCACAF and FIFA vice president, based in Trinidad and infamous for operating under the shadows. accused of accepting millions to support Qatar and Russia. Then we have the three musketeers of South American football: Ricardo Teixeira, president of Brazilian Football Confederation; Nicolas Leoz, president of CONMEBOL; and the infamous Julio Grondona, president of Argentine Football Association and FIFA senior vice president. He was a powerful figure and known for controlling blocks of votes. He controlled the Argentine Football Association for maybe 3 decades, more than 3 decades. And then we have a Thai international, Warwi Makudi. He was the president of the Football Association of Thailand, representing Asia, and his vote followed a sudden gas deal between Qatar and Thailand. The timing suspicious. He was never part of the official bid team for Qatar. His name wasn't even on any public brochure. He gave no press conferences, took no stages, and he didn't even say any speech for Qatar 2022. But he was the man pulling all the strings. Mohammed Bin Hammam, FIFA Vice President, President of Asian Football Confederation, and the most powerful Qatari in the world of football. At first glance, it looked clever, clean even. He kept himself separate from the Qatar's official bid campaign. No direct links, no statements, and no rules to follow. But that was the trick. Because if you are not part of the bid, you are not bound by its rules. And from the shadows, Bin Hammam started building something far more dangerous than a campaign. He built a network. According to thousands of leaked emails, documents, and financial records first published by the Sunday Times, Bin Hammam controlled a slush fund, just slush fund of $5 million. The fund was used to make donations and the development payments. It was mainly given out to football officials across the world. 200,000 here, 50,000 there, luxury hotel stays, first class tickets, conference payouts, all wrapped in the name of football developments, but with the timing of a deal. Now, you might be wondering, if the final vote was decided by just 22 men, why Bin Hammam was paying out officials that didn't even have a vote? Because he understands something that most people didn't. FIFA may have had 22 official voters, but those voters didn't operate in a vacuum. They were influenced by their regions, their peers, their allies, and even their rivals. So let's look at an example. Case in point, Africa. The African continent had 4 executive committee votes in 2010, but those 4 men reported to the president of CAF, Issa Hayatou. Hayatu's loyalty was crucial. So, Bin Hammam invited 25 African Federation presidents to a luxury hotel in Angola, all expenses paid, and handed out brown envelope with cash. He wasn't buying their votes. He was buying their influence over the man who could deliver the votes. Same playbook in Asia, where he was the president, and in the Caribbean, where he quoted Mr. Jack Warner, who demanded money for everything, literally everything. By mid 2010, the signs were pretty clear. Africa was leaning toward Qatar, AFC, his own confederation, was aligned, and deals were being whispered from Bangkok to Port of Spain. But Bin Hammam did not stop there. In 2011, just months after Qatar won the World Cup, he challenged Mr. Sepp Blatter himself to become the new president of FIFA. And that was one step too far for him. When he started challenging Mr. Sepp Blatter for the presidency, FIFA's internal machinery started working against him. In 2011, he was accused of bribing the Caribbean officials, and it was during his presidential campaign. He was suspended from FIFA at first, then he was banned. Then, after 6 months, he was banned for life. He never became the president of FIFA, but at that point, it did not matter because at 2010, when Mr. Sepp Blatter opened that envelope and said Qatar, it was Bin Hammam's shadow all over that card. So, Qatar bid was never the frontrunner. Technically, it was the weakest. FIFA's own evaluation team gave it the lowest infrastructure rating and flagged it as the high risk in almost every category, probably every categories. But how did they win then? Because three men from three different continents changed their vote. And with that, the map shifted. Qatar didn't only gain support, they gained momentum. Michel Platini wasn't just any voter. He was the president of UEFA, Europe's most powerful body. He had the respect of the game, the ear of the presidents, and the influence over multiple voters in that room. Before the vote, it was reported that Michel Platini was in favor for the US bid for 2022. He believed in their commercial upside, infrastructure, and global appeal. But on November 23rd, 2010, just 9 days before the vote, Mr. Michel Platini attended a lunch hosted by the French President Nicolas Sarkozy at Ellis Palace in Paris. Also at that table, the Qatari Crown Prince, Qatari investors, and the key decision makers in the future of Paris Saint-Germain. Days later, Platini flipped his vote to Qatar, and shortly after that, Qatar bought Paris Saint-Germain. Qatar committed to billions in French investments, and Qatar secured the TV rights for League One via beIN Sports. Platini later admitted that he changed his mind after the lunch but denied any deal making. He said the president asked him to consider it and he considered. But whatever the reason, whether it was persuasion, whether it was deal making, Platini flipped, Europe fractured, and Qatar surged. If Platini changed the game in Europe, Jack Warner did it in Americas. FIFA vice president, president of CONCACAF, and for years he was the most notorious and powerful broker in the Americas region. And he was not subtle at all. He was known for asking for gifts in exchange of political favors. According to the US Department of Justice, he received $5 million from Russian and Qatari bid teams, and $1.2 million he received from a Bin Hammam controlled company just before the vote. When Warner was later indicted, he blatantly said, "Yes, Qatar bought the World Cup." And in the room that day, Warner vote delivered a clear signal that CONCACAF was swaying Qatar's way, and it gave an indication to the smaller EXCO members, and they followed him because he had that much power. The next important character is Warwi Makudi. So, Warwi Makudi was quiet, Thailand's representative of FIFA's executive committee, not flashy, not controversial, and not seen as a swing vote until the final weeks. So, right before the vote, Thailand and Qatar signed a major liquefied natural gas deal. Multi-million-dollar agreement, long-term supply, and quietly negotiated, but suddenly announced. Makudi's vote, once in doubt, went to Qatar. No cash transfers, no suitcases, no email trail, just a diplomatic deal and a convenient shift for Qatar. And Bin Hammam, Mohammed Bin Hammam, that guy, he became the unofficial diplomat for Qatar in the region of Thailand. So, he had access to Thai officials, he had access to Warwi Makudi, and he had reached, and Makudi's vet fell in line because of Mohammed Bin Hammam's unofficial diplomacy. So these weren't just individual flips, they were signals, dominoes. Platini flipped, Europe fractured. Jack Warner flipped, and CONCACAF shifted. Makudi flipped, Asia locked in. Now, Qatar had a path to victory. But not everyone stayed quiet. There was someone inside Qatar's campaign, a woman, who saw the deals, the envelopes, and the vote buying firsthand. And she went public. But then, poof,